Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammam sangham namasami. This will be my last opportunity to speak about the paramis, or the perfections. I chose the perfection of wisdom, which in some of the ways the teaching is set up, you would think that the perfection of wisdom comes at the very consummation, the conclusion of the path, where you have the final destruction of ignorance. But then in the standard list, it comes in the middle, in the list in the paramis. And so I'm thinking that is talking about the way wisdom works on the occasion of stream entry. So after a person has made their right view, given up gross superstitious ideas, taken care of their ethics, extended loving kindness in all the directions, let go of the hindrances, practiced meditation, then the mind is bright, pliable, and capable of hearing and appreciating the unique teachings of the Buddha. And that would be the time to for them to be able to hear the Four Noble Truths, and then like a clean cloth is able to take the dye, that purified mind is able to take on board and realize the Four Noble Truths in a way that results in the Pali word yatha bhuta jnana dasana, seeing things the way they really are, seeing how it has become the way it really is. But then there's more to go after that. There is becoming disenchanted with the world, becoming, seeing the fading away of passion, and the realizing the destruction of the taints. So that whole training after the eyes opening, that could take quite a while. It could take years and years to go from the stream entry to the final realization. And then while a person is in that state, the perfection of wisdom is that the power of panya is at work in them in many ways, and is you could say, the driving energy, moving them forward, giving strength and momentum to their training. So I'm enjoying giving you stories, and I found a particular story which is in this book. I'll hold it up here. If you could read that, if it wasn't reversed. It says esoteric text. It's 3 short texts from the Mahayana. And one of them is the Matanga Sutta. This is a very popular sutta. It's telling the story, which is, it's pictured here. I'm going to read it to you, but just in brief. Ananda asked for water from a young girl of the Chandala class, which is the outcast class, and she didn't think that she was allowed to give anything to the monks because of being outcast. But he said, no, you can, she can. So she gives some water. So that's the picture there. She's giving water to Ananda. And his kindness is so powerful. She falls in love and goes home and tells her mother that she wants to marry Ananda. And well, the story goes on from there, but the story has got many, many brutally realistic things to say about the corruption of the Brahmin class and the oppression of outcasts and the falsity of that, and how somebody who is an outcast is able to gain wisdom, to gain awakening, to have moral purity, and to be great in many different ways. This story was it was translated into Chinese 4 different times, and it was translated in the 9th century into Tibetan, and became a part of that canon there. And it also, this particular story was used as a part of the Sarangama Sutta, which is one of the most popular suttas in the Mahayana. And in addition to that, this story has been very popular. It was made into the European composer Richard Wagner made it into an opera, which unfortunately he didn't finish it. So I've never heard of this opera, and I don't know if it's available to listen to. And then the Indian playwright Rabindranath Tagore made a play called Chandalika, and this image that I'm showing you there is from the play. So I'm going to read you just a portion of the story about the conversion of Prakti, that's the name of the girl. So Ananda goes for alms round. On his way, he sees a pond where some villagers are. Next to the pond, there's a woman of the Chandala class carrying a pitcher who had just arrived to fetch water. So Venerable Ananda went up to where she is and said, Sister, I'm now thirsty. I would very much like something to drink. Could you give me a little water? You might know that in the Vinaya, a monk is not allowed to just walk up to a person and ask for food unless they have an invitation. They can appear with their alms bowl, but they're not allowed to make a direct ask like that. However, there's an exception. We are allowed to ask for water. So I know monks in America have done a long tudong in the south, and they could go and, if necessary, they could just go up to house and knock on the door and ask for some water if they wanted to from a complete stranger. Okay, so she says, Sir, she says, I'm a Chandala, it would not be proper to offer water. And he says, Sister, I'm a Shramana whose mind is impartial. I do not see any difference between the high and the low. Just give me some water, for I should not linger. So she gives some clean water. And we know that Ananda was very popular with bhikkhunis and women. He was very kind to women. He was willing to teach them, willing to speak to them. And he also was a very kind monk in many different ways. And as well, he was very good looking. He was a handsome monk. So the woman got deeply attached to Ananda, and desire came up in her, and she thought, wouldn't it be nice if I could get that departing monk to become my husband? And she further thought, my mother is skilled in spells. She may be able to make him come to be my husband. So I'll go to my mother and tell her all about it. So she goes home, she tells her mother, just take pity, Mom, please fulfill my wish. And mother said, there are two kinds of people against whom it's no use to use magic. Which two? Those who have cut off desire is the first kind, and the second kind is a person who's dead. Others I'm able to subjugate. The Shramana Gautama is exalted in awe-inspiring virtue. King Pasenadi has great faith and respect to him. Were he to find out that I made Ananda come here, the Chandalas would all be annihilated. Furthermore, his followers are all free from defilement of desire. So why would one come here to commit evil deeds? So, but the daughter wept with grief, and she said, if you don't make him come, I'm going to die. And finally, very sad and unhappy, she says, don't give up your life. At least I could make Ananda come here. So she smeared the ground around her house with cow dung, spread reeds, and in the center lit a fire. She spread flowers. She recited a spell. And when she had finished, Ananda immediately became confused in mind and became unaware of what he was doing. Can you picture how this would be in the play or the opera? Seeing Ananda all drunk, staggering around, and unaware of what he's doing. Like a zombie, he goes to pay a visit to the Chandala's house. The girl's mother, seeing Ananda from afar, approaching in a leisurely manner, addressed the daughter, said, the monk has come. You should now lay out the bedding, burn incense, scatter flowers, and make everything nice and clean. The girl rejoiced, leapt for joy. She decorated the room, installed a jeweled seat, cleaned the room, sprinkled the floor, scattered flowers. Then Ananda arrived at the house, sobbing with grief, choking and tearful. He said, how hapless I am to have met this trouble. Could the world-honored one with his great compassion not take pity, apply his might, and think protectively at me so that I may be neither troubled nor harmed? So he needs to call the Buddha to help him out of this fix. And the Tathagata, with his pure divine vision, sees Ananda is being led astray and confused. And he utters a spell. The meaning of the spell is constancy, non-lapsing, good conduct. So he says that. With this spell, I make all frightened beings feel at peace. I also bring benefit to those in distress. Should there be any beings without a place of refuge, I shall become a refuge for them. He uttered these verses. The pond of precepts is fresh and cool, clear and unsullied. It is able to leave the heat of the mental affliction of beings. Should any wise person enter this pond, the obstacles of darkness, of ignorance, will be completely extinguished forever. For this reason, the worthies and sages of the 3 ages all receive the precepts respectfully, and together they extol them. They have truly bathed in this stream. If I should make my attendant quickly return. So then, the Chandala spell lost its power, and he disappeared from that house, went back to the Buddha. And of course, Chandalika is so sad. Mother says Gautama certainly protected him. And the girl says, is there a power, supernatural virtues of the Shramana, which is able to prevail over your magic, dear mother? And she says, yes. The story goes on, and they decide to go and visit the Buddha. So, meanwhile, the Buddha gives additional spells to, in this version, to Ananda, which is not easy to translate, to help him to avoid this magic. They in the morning, they take a bath, they put on new clean clothes, put flowers on her head, apply perfume, adorned her person with gold and silver brooches and strings of pearls, and walk slowly at a leisurely pace for our Savati to the city gate, and she's waiting for Ananda. That morning, Ananda entered the city to beg for food. The girl, seeing him coming, felt deep joy and went after him, never once leaving him. Wherever he stopped or moved, she followed him around. Wherever he went in, she went in. When he came out, she came out. The Venerable Ananda, seeing this, felt ashamed, depressed, and unhappy. He left the city. He went to Jeta's grove. He went to the Buddha's feet and bowed to the Buddha and said, World-honored one, this girl is harassing me a great deal. Wherever I go or stay, move or halt, she does not leave me. I beg you, world-honored one, protect me out of compassion. So the Buddha says he will take care of it. And now the Buddha addresses Chandalika. He says, good woman, the rules for marriage are such that one must tell one's parents. Have you now asked your honored parents or not? She said, Gautama, my parents have given me permission, therefore I came here. And the Buddha said, if your parents have already granted you permission, you must have them come themselves and hand you over in my presence. So hearing these words, she gets the parents. She begs them to come. She says, Ananda is going to be my husband. Please come. You have to be there for the wedding. The parents go to where the Buddha was. They bow down. And the world-honored one says, do you truly give your daughter to Ananda? They said, yes, world-honored one, indeed, it's as you say. And the Buddha said, you may now return to your dwelling place. And then they withdraw. And then he says, if you wish to win the monk Ananda, you must leave home and assume his appearance. She said, I shall respectfully accept your instructions. Thereupon, miraculously, she becomes a Sobhanā. Her hair falls off its own accord, and the robes of a bhikkhuni magically appear on her person. Then the Buddha preached the Dhamma for her, revealing and teaching and delighting her. Namely, he gives the discourse on giving, the discourse on the precepts, the discourse on birth in heaven, and that desire is impure, and escape from rebirth is the best. Further, that this desire is an aggregation of sufferings, the palatability of which is, I should say, the enjoyment or the happiness of desire is very small and the faults very plentiful. For example, just as moths out of ignorance throw themselves into the blazing flame and burn themselves to death, so too ordinary people with their upside-down views wrongly become attached and are impelled by craving, just like moths chasing flames. Therefore, the wise reject it and distance themselves from it without even for one moment arousing the thought of love. Having heard the Buddha explain this, the nun Chandalika was happy, rejoicing in her heart. Her mind became disciplined. Thereupon the world-renowned one, knowing what was in the nun's heart, replanted, free from troublesome hindrances, explained for her in full the Dharma, the Four Noble Truths, that is, dukkha, the cause of dukkha, the cessation of dukkha, and the path leading to the cessation of dukkha. And the nun suddenly understood in her mind the Four Noble Truths, just like a new, clean white cloth readily receives the dye. And right there where she was sitting, she received the way of the Arahant, never again to turn back or follow another's teaching. She bowed down with her head at the Buddha's feet, said, "World-renowned one, earlier I was foolish, intoxicated with the wine of desire. I upset a wise and holy person and created unwholesome karma. I pray, world-renowned one, that you will accept my confession." Buddha said, "I already accepted your confession. You should now know that the age when the Buddha is on the earth is difficult to encounter. A human body is difficult to obtain. To be liberated from birth and death and to gain the state of an Arhat is also extremely difficult. Those difficult things you have already accomplished. In the Buddha's Dhamma, you have attained the fruit of truth. That is to say, birth and death have come to an end. Pure conduct has been established. What had to be done has been done. There will be no future existence for you. You should not now exert yourself. Don't be negligent." I'm going to not read the rest of this fantastic opera, but it has several other chapters. The Brahmins and the eminent householders heard that the Buddha has ordained a Chandala lady, and they become very upset and outraged. They say she's of low class. How will she practice pure conduct? How will she enter into the homes of distinguished people to receive offerings? They discussed it in that matter. And the Buddha told a story of the previous birth in which a Chandala person, a person of that caste, was the king. And he gave a fiefdom, a village, to a Brahmin. And then that king had a son, and he looked around for a beautiful girl and saw the Brahmin's daughter, who was Chandalika in a previous lifetime, and said that would be the right one, and goes to the Brahmin and requests that the girl be given in marriage. And the Brahmin gets all huffy and says, "Are you kidding? I'm a Brahmin, and you're a Chandalika. You're low, I'm high." And then he gives a very passionate discourse about the ways in which the Brahmins are corrupted. He says, among the many things, that the Brahmins say that if they sacrifice a sheep, the sheep will be transported to heaven. And he said, well, if that's true, if being sacrificed is a way to be transported to heaven, why don't you sacrifice your own mother, your own daughter, and your own self so that you all can go to heaven? But actually, it's just a story you make up because you like to eat meat. And many other really piercing accusations that are made, and a statement that human beings are all equal, and that they all come from the womb, and they all have to die, and they're all capable of wisdom, all capable of becoming noble. So this lady goes through in very quick sequence in the first chapter of this tale. She goes through the entire training in hearing the Dhamma and becoming, gaining wisdom, having the wisdom, the loosening up of the fading away of the desire for sensuality, arising naturally because of the eye-opening wisdom. And with that fading away of desire, further opening away for the following stages of the final destruction of ignorance. So now I'm going to read you a sutta, which will give the teaching in the form of a sutta, which is similar to what the lady heard in the story. This is the Sutta on Impermanence. It's number 22.45 in the Samyutta Nikaya. Mendicants, form is impermanent. What's impermanent is suffering. What's suffering is not self. And what's not self should be truly seen with right understanding, like this. This is not mine. I am not this. This is not myself. Seeing truly with right understanding, like this, the mind becomes dispassionate and freed from defilements by not grasping. And the same teaching is repeated regarding the five aggregates. Feeling is impermanent. Perception is impermanent. Mental formations or volitional formations or choices are impermanent. Consciousness is impermanent. What's impermanent is suffering. What's suffering is not self. What's not self should truly be seen with right understanding as this. This is not mine. I'm not this. This is not myself. There is one thing that's interesting about this particular combination. Very frequently, you see the teaching about the three characteristics of impermanent suffering and not self being given in the context of the five aggregates. So we should understand in this case that the five aggregates are referring to everything by which we recognize this person as being our own self. Everything that we identify with as being us, whether it be in the religious sense of concept of an eternal soul, or whether it be an emotional sense of self-centered emotions rising up and causing us to be overwhelmed with desire, or overwhelmed with aversion, or overwhelmed with fear. All of those commonplace, ordinary emotions have a role to play in the protecting of this ordinary self. So you become afraid because something is a danger to yourself. You become angry because something is a danger to yourself. You fall in love because to get married and make some babies would be a way of producing the next generation of yourself. You get all happy when you see some comfortable clothing, or a pleasant house, or smell some delicious food, because all of those things are about the protection of the self. So that's the emotions. The religious idea is just a sort of like a elevated and abstract version of something that is actually based in emotion. And the emotions are about the self, and the five aggregates are from a, you could say, from a philosophy perspective, or from an ethics perspective, what a person identifies with. And this has a lot of deep repercussions, like in terms of how a person would know anything. Like, where's the subject that knows the phenomena that are arising to your experience? Or how is a person able to do anything? That it would be like a person who has the willpower to do something and take an action and be responsible for that action? Or how is someone able to receive the results of their karma? And so then in ethics, or philosophy, or verging over into religious ethical ideas, there's the idea that the self is receiving the results of the karma. There's the idea that the self is dirty because of the previous unwholesome karma, and that somehow or other the self has to become purified through religious practices, and all of this builds up around the self. But the Buddha boils the self down to the five aggregates, and encourages this contemplation about impermanence, dukkha, and non-self, particularly to defeat, finally, once and for all, defeat any residual clinging or identification to this idea that this here is self. Now, we know that in the subsequent period in the evolution of the Mahayana, and also it's implied in the early suttas, there's the idea that the shunyata, that the emptiness, doesn't only imply that these five aggregates are empty of a self. It also is that all of the phenomena in nature are empty of any pure, perfect essence, that there's not an essence to be found anywhere. So not only is this inside a constantly flowing, evolving flow of a stream of factors which is just bound together because of causes and conditions temporarily. Just the same way then, everywhere you look in the world, all of the other sentient beings in the whole world and all of the factors of reality are only have a conditional existence because of causes and conditions and there's no essence or no self to be found anywhere at all. But it's the urgent and immediate challenge for us is not, well, you could be philosophically challenged, but most people, when you scratch the surface, they're challenged because they have an underlying unconscious belief in their own self, which springs up whenever there's a challenge, whether it be pleasant or unpleasant, and becomes the fuel that drives all the proliferation and unskillful behavior and suffering that we have to go through. So it's the first job one, the first mission of the Buddha is to upright and to tear up that delusion which is so deeply held within us. This sutta that I'm reading, after presenting how seeing the not-self with regard to each of the 5 aggregates, and I think we could say, in addition to any of the 5 aggregates, to any combination of the 5 aggregates, or to all the 5 aggregates together, in any combination, it's not self. And when you can see that, then it breaks up, and the mind begins to become dispassionate. That's viraga. So there's 2 sides to awakening. There's the samatha and the vipassana, are the 2 sides of awakening. The vipassana is the seeing, and then the samatha is the tranquilizing desire, the stilling, calming, and final disappearance of desire. So those 2 things are happening side by side. So when we talk about this dispassion, that's virajati. That's referring to the peace side of the equation. And then with peace and seeing, then one experiences being freed from the defilements. And the defilements are not only the taint of being attracted to sensual pleasures, but also the taint of existence, or the taint of a desire for existence. So one becomes indifferent about that, and from the taint of desire for a immaterial existence in some other realm. So you don't want to be reborn with a meat body, and you also don't want to be reborn with a immaterial body, because you know that there's that craving, that attachment for any kind of existence is it's what's holding you back, and all of them have got to be cut for the full awakening to happen, as it did for I'm calling her Chandalika because that's what it is in the play that I showed you before, but her name is also Praktri. So she's Praktri the Chandalika, the little Chandala lady. So it says here in the sutta, if a mendicant's mind is dispassionate towards the form element, the feeling element, the perception element, The choices element, or the volitional formations, or the mental formations element, and the consciousness element. It's freed from the defilements by not grasping. So this is the next step in this awakening process. It always, in a way, seemed, when I was younger, it seemed odd to me that after you've seen reality as it really is, and the passions and desire have subsided, why do you then have to relinquish the grasping? It seems like you're already out of the woods. So why is this relinquishment come next in line? And but it means that, like, you wouldn't be able to return. So if the one can have like a glimpse of nirvana, or have some kind of some kind of enlightenment, some kind of seeing into this Dhamma, which is very real, very valuable, precious. The eye-opening, awakening the eye of Dhamma, like at your stream entry. But then it's still, you have the possibility of slipping backwards until you finally reach the goal. There's still that possibility of slipping backwards. And this relinquishment means that you wouldn't slip backwards. So having been somebody who had by mistake fallen into a cesspool and been pulled out and gotten cleaned up, and somebody said, "Well, would you like to go back?" And I said, "No, thank you. I don't want to go back." But there has to be that step of relinquishment. In a way, Venerable Ananda is, even though he was a stream winner, he was a noble. He wasn't an arahant until the very end, and he's used as a kind of an example of an everyman kind of example of the difficulties that we face in our efforts along the path. That even though we see how we've come so far, but then something could happen, as some lady could put a spell on us. and we could be but the relinquishment is where that is not able to happen anymore, when you let go of that grasping. And then when they're freed from the defilements by not grasping, then the mind is completely stable. Nothing is able to create a disturbance for the arahant. And being stable, the arahant is fully content. We have a bhikkhuni called santusika, contentment. So you may think like that an ordinary person can be content, but an arahant is really content. They're not dissatisfied or trying to rearrange the furniture or change the world in any way. They don't need to do that because they have contentment. Although the Bodhisattva in the previous life, he had contentment, but he wagged his finger at the Brahmins and criticized their wrong views in order to teach them. But they're content. They're not anxious. And being not anxious, they personally become extinguished. So these qualities, freedom, stability, contentment, complete deliverance from anxieties or fear, that's a paritasati, that's a trembling. So they're nothing more shakes them up. And that calmness is where the final nibbana is possible. They say that the last fetter to go before one becomes fully enlightened is called restlessness. Okay, so that would be that anxiety, that trembling. If you've not yet gone completely beyond that grasping. So grasping for what? It's grasping the self. Because all of the other, like the vulnerability to desire, or to sensual desire, or to anything else, is all, in a way, secondary to that grasping a self. So, not being anxious, they personally become extinguished. They understand rebirth is ended. The spiritual journey has been completed. What had to be done has been done. There's nothing further for this place. And this is what that young girl knew. How amazing to encounter a Buddha. What paramis she must have had through countless previous lifetimes to be so lucky that even though born to a low social position, that she was put into the body that was going to have that chance to have that meeting with Ananda, which was going to have the chance to feel the inspiration and love for the Sangha, and would then have the further opportunities to receive the powerful teaching directly from a Sama Sambuddha that purified and transformed that sensual love and the desire to acquire a husband, converting that into the wisdom and freedom. So then what then is the parami of wisdom? I almost feel like in that story, the Buddha is showing the parami of wisdom that is capable of teaching the Dhamma and transforming another person by pointing out the Dhamma to them. So now I'll see if there's any questions. Welcome, Uttara, Manal, Ryan, Elaine, Yankee Apple, Sasa 7, and Chintana. Manal is asking, in personal experience, it is easier to recognize non-self in certain aggregates like form, feeling, perception, maybe consciousness. However, it gets difficult in sankhara because of the nature of its being volitional. How does one separate the decision one makes from the decision maker more clearly or more easily? That's a good question. So this is Manal's question. And the second part of her question, how to separate the decision from the decision maker. So actually, if you study, trying to think what they call it, forensic psychology, that's the psychologist who's treating criminals to find out whether they're morally responsible for their deeds and able to stand a trial. They should be able to put them to trial because they're morally responsible for the decisions they made to commit those crimes. And more and more, those psychologists are saying there's a very small extent to which you could say that people really had free will. And there's a really gigantic, huge extent to which all of their behavior was determined by things that were done to them or things that happened to them. So you have violent men who were raised and abused by violent parents. You have violent or misbehaving people who were dropped or fell or had a brain injury, so that actually their ability for thinking is impaired because of a physical injury to the brain. So they don't have, some part of their brain is injured. Or you have people who are, for their sake of survival of themselves or for the survival or protection of their family, they have to join some gang or some culture, and they're within a culture in which the norm of that culture is that if somebody injures somebody who's part of our gang, then we have to go and take revenge. And so you have like a culture of feuding. And if that's just merely a gang or a clan that's doing that, it's illegal. But if it's a country or a government that's doing it, then it's considered to be legal, and it's considered to be the highest good that somebody would join the army and go out and kill. In order to do this, they do things for my country. So in all of those ways, we have much less free will than we thought we had. One way I've heard it explained is we have the freedom to do what we want, but we have much less freedom to choose what we want. There is some amount of free will. It's kind of like necessary to understand that there is some free will. And it's also true that part of the things that happen to us is that we could encounter somebody who's a good influence. And because of encountering a teacher or somebody who's a good influence, then that social thing creates some opportunity for somebody to choose. Okay, I could stay with the culture of my clan or something, which is telling me to take revenge, or I could go and choose this different culture, which is showing a different way. So there's some free will, but not nearly as much as you think. The choices that we make, the karma that we do, it's extraordinary, exceptional, and wonderful. It's a great opportunity if we have a chance to do wholesome karmas. If we had a chance to be in a culture where our parents gave us the example and taught us ways to do wholesome karmas that were conducive to peace and happiness, how lucky we are to have that opportunity. And then if we see some, like an animal or something, there's not as much opportunity for animals to be good, but sometimes they are. We see many stories of animals who are good. We see the times that they protect a baby that's of a different species than their own. Or we see many times these days, we see that the whales in the ocean have been communicating with humans quite a bit. And so, like, if some human gets on their boat or something, they get in trouble, like the whales and the dolphins can help them, because they're kind of saying, it's getting hot here, and we better stay together and help each other. So it but when the so when that happened, it was like it's just one factor within you that's making that choice. It's your decision factor, your agenda factor. So all of the aggregates are working together, and your decision factor is influenced by your feeling, influenced by your perceptions, influenced by even all the qualities in the body, influenced by so many different things, and also influenced externally by things that are coming to you through culture. So when we make that's why it's important to put ourselves in a situation that creates the conditions that support making wholesome decisions. So we hang around with wise people and listen to wise people, and we make the effort to do wholesome things that are somewhat easy to do, and we keep doing those easy, wholesome things again and again and again and again, and it builds up a habit. Like here in the monastery within the Sangha, we have ways to settle a dispute or to settle a quarrel, and we practice all the time on the littlest things. Say, "Oh, sorry, I took a paper clip. Oh, sorry, will you forgive me?" And they say, "Yes, I forgive." And so we're doing this like all the time in ways that are easy. And then someday something heavy could happen to the community that's really challenging and difficult. But because we've been practicing the culture of communal harmony and practicing the ways to speak honestly and to give acknowledgement and to give forgiveness and to make reconciliation, because we've built up a big habit of that, then it's easy to do that. So that's my idea about a lot of times when people make a decision, they identify with their decision, and then if somebody tells them they're wrong, then they get insulted about it. So you could reflect on that as well. Okay, Ryan. I heard Ajahn Martin say he made sufficient merit by going forth to guarantee an auspicious rebirth for his parents. Could you kindly explain how this works? Say, if I was to renounce, how could I pass on the merit to ensure my daughter guarantee a heavenly rebirth, please? I think this is a very strong tradition in the Buddhist countries. And I can see a little more easily it could also work with a child. So the parents have to give away their child when the child goes forth. They might have been, hoping that child would stay around and would be providing their security in their old age, and providing them with grandchildren and great-grandchildren, so that the family line would be carried down. And so then for the and the monastic is very often mostly secluded and not socially hanging around with the parent unless there's some kind of illness or some kind of important reason to help the parents. So in all of those ways, it's something auspicious. But I think I also have heard of monks whose parents were not Buddhist, who hadn't heard the Dhamma, who hadn't realized the Dhamma. And so their job one is to teach the Dhamma to the parents. They say the gift of Dhamma is the greatest gift of all. The most skillful thing that a monk can do is to represent the Dhamma accurately and to explain it clearly and properly, and to teach the Dhamma to your parents is really important. And so then, if you have a daughter, your daughter is also giving up a lot, losing a lot, and she doesn't have the same authority over you that a parent has, but she is giving up something. And if she's able to have that generosity to let you go into monastic form and to consciously and knowingly do that, then I think that would be a tremendous merit for her. And if, because of your going forth, she has many chances to visit the temple and to see the monks and hear the Dhamma and come to know and understand the Dhamma, that also would be good for her. As far as the auspicious rebirth in the heavenly realm, when you when you take care of your initial right view, understanding what karma is, and take care of your ethics, and learn how to practice the Brahma Viharas without limitation in all the directions, giving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity, extending without discrimination everywhere. And then practice meditation, and in the right effort part of meditation, learn to prevent and extinguish the unwholesome thoughts, unwholesome states of mind, and to bring in the wholesome states of mind, to let go of the hindrances. At that point, if you die like that, it does say in the sutta that you would be guaranteed of a good rebirth. That's in one way why the Brahma Viharas are called the Brahma Viharas, is because they lead to a rebirth in heaven. The problem is that if you don't have your stream entry, there's a possible that something could happen to you. Some lady puts a spell on you and then you lose your mindfulness and get overwhelmed, and then you could fall to a bad rebirth. So if you want to be safe, you should have stream entry, and stream entry is explained in very practical terms by the Blessed One. It's possible for humans to do it even in these modern times, and so that's when we teach. We should teach people to gain stream entry. That's what Ananda was famous for. He taught thousands and thousands and thousands of people up to a level of stream entry, and then he handed them over to Venerable Moggallana or Venerable Sariputta, who taught them up to becoming arhats. But he had a sort of this speciality of bringing somebody to stream entry, and he was willing, if somebody was like a hard case, like recalcitrant, he spent thousands of hours, thousands of days teaching one person until he could get them up to stream entry. So it's doable. It may not be easy, but yeah, it's a good to do. And if you really want to be sure regarding helping your relatives, that's what you should try to do. Okay, so that's the questions. I thank you all for your patient listening, and it's been enjoyable to me to blend in a little bit of Mahayana thought in with the Theravada thought. And I'll be going away for 2 months, so you'll be getting more from the other venerables around here, and as well, Ayyā will be giving some teachings here. So I shall see you again in July. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.